Okay, I want to start today with a quote that completely threw me for a loop.
Oh, yeah.
It's a metaphor, and honestly, it sounds a bit ominous at first. You ready?
I'm ready. Lay it on me.
It's the woodpeckers on the inside of the ark that will sink the ship, not the ones on the outside.
Wow. That's vivid.
Right.
And a little terrifying if you're on a boat.
It implies this internal threat, sabotage from within. It's from a memoir we're looking at today called Dyslexia Confidential by Davis Graham.
Okay.
And usually when you hear a quote like that, you think about self-sabotage or like a weakness. But today, we are flipping the script.
We certainly are.
We are doing a deep dive into dyslexia, but not the struggling student narrative you might be used to.
No, we're looking at something much more interesting. We're looking at the idea that the woodpecker, the dyslexic mind, might not be sinking the ship at all.
Oh, I like that.
It might actually be carving out a window so we can all see the world differently.
I love that image. And to get there, we have a fascinating stack of research today.
We do?
We've got that memoir by Davis Graham. We have neurological studies from Boston University and Stanford, and some really cutting-edge stuff on reading technology from Scientific American.
And the mission today is, well, it's pretty specific. We want to explore a bold hypothesis that the printed word, books, text on a page, is actually an outdated technology.
Outdated.
And that it's been holding back some of our most brilliant minds. We're arguing that we are finally entering an era where technology is proving the dyslexic brain isn't broken. It might actually be the model of the future.
So let's unpack this, because I think for most of us, reading feels as natural as breathing.
Of course.
You learn it when you're 5 or 6, and you just do it. It feels inevitable. But you're saying that's not really true biologically.
It feels inevitable because we value it so highly, but biologically, no. This is where we have to start with what some call the evolutionary mismatch.
Okay.
There's a neuroscientist, John Gabrielli, who puts this perfectly. He says that using the human brain to read is like using a stapler to pound a nail.
Using a stapler to pound a nail. That sounds inefficient.
And painful.
Yeah.
It gets the job done eventually, but it takes a massive amount of extra effort. Think about it. We don't have a reading gene. We have genes for vision, genes for language, and for pattern recognition. Reading is just forcing those 3 separate systems to talk to each other.
So it's like trying to run modern software on hardware from, I don't know, the Stone Age.
Exactly. We've been speaking for hundreds of thousands of years, but common literacy is barely 2 centuries old. We just don't have our reading center in the brain.
So what do we do?
We have to repurpose other parts of the brain to do it. For most people, the brain eventually builds a dedicated circuit for this, the visual word form area. It's a little patch of real estate behind your left ear.
Okay, so most of us eventually hack our brains to build this little circuit.
Right, but for the dyslexic brain, that circuit doesn't wire up the same way. The hack doesn't stick.
And we know why.
Well, there's some fascinating research from Boston University, led by Tyler Perecchiona. That explains why. It comes down to something called rapid neural adaptation.
A rapid neural adaptation. Okay, that sounds technical. Break that down for us.
So imagine you're talking to a friend. At first, your brain is working hard to process their specific voice, their pitch, their accent, all of it. But after a few seconds, your brain tunes in.
Right.
The neural activity actually eases off. You've adapted. It becomes efficient.
Okay, so my brain goes into energy-saving mode once it recognizes the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when I hear a new song, the first time, I'm really listening, but the 10th time, it's just background noise.
Precisely. And this happens with images, too. If I show you a picture of a dog, your brain fires up. If I show it to you again, it fires less. It knows what it is.
Okay.
Here's the glitch. In the dyslexic brain, that adaptation, it doesn't happen.
It doesn't tune in.
It doesn't. The study showed that for people with dyslexia, the brain processes every single word, every single voice, as if it's fresh. Every single time they see a word, it's like they are seeing it for the very first time.
Wow. Wait, let me make sure I get this. Yeah. If I'm reading a page and the word "the" appears 20 times, my brain just glides over it. I don't even really read it after the first time.
You're recognizing the shape, not decoding the letters?
But a dyslexic brain has to decode "the" 20 separate times.
Every single time.
Oh my God.
Imagine the mental fatigue. You're working overtime on this low-level processing, just figuring out what the letters are, which leaves you with almost no energy for the high-level stuff like comprehension.
That explains so much about the exhaustion kids with dyslexia describe.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't get the concepts, it's that their brain is running a marathon just to get the data in.
It's like having a phone battery that drains in an hour because the screen brightness is stuck at 100%.
That is a great analogy.
And to make matters worse, we've designed the very medium of reading to be hostile to them. We talked about reading being an outdated technology.
Right.
Think about how text looks.
Just lines of black marks on white paper.
Right. And historically, parchment was expensive. So in the Middle Ages, scribes started squishing letters together to save money.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
We designed books to be hard to read to save money on sheepskin.
Essentially, yes. And this creates a phenomenon called visual crowding. When letters are squished together, it interferes with the brain's ability to discern them. For a dyslexic brain, which is already struggling to adapt, this crowding makes it incredibly difficult to isolate one letter from the one next to it. We're clinging to a design format from the Middle Ages that actively works against how these brains function.
That is wild. We're judging people's intelligence based on their ability to navigate a medieval cost-saving measure.
That is a very powerful way to put it, and sadly, that judgment has real-world consequences. This isn't just biology, it's biography.
Which brings us to the memoir in our stack, Dyslexia Confidential by Davis Graham. Because this isn't abstract neuroscience. This is a guy who lived through the ringer of the education system.
He really did. Graham was diagnosed way back in 1967 at the University of Miami. And his story, well, reading it, it felt like a tour of a different era, but the emotional scars felt very modern.
I have to be honest, reading the section about his school days actually made me angry. The image of the drug line. It felt dystopian.
It does, doesn't it? He describes the line for medication at his school being longer than the lunch line.
It's the detail about the paper cup that got me. He's a kid, and he's standing in a line longer than the lunch queue, waiting for his Davis pill, which was Ritalin handed to him in a little paper cup.
Just so he could sit still.
Yeah, just so he can sit still in a chair. It completely strips away the context of learning.
And that's the tragedy Graham is pointing at. It wasn't about education, it was about compliance. He talks about the sting of failure persisting for decades. He mentions disciplinary spankings because teachers thought he was just being difficult or lazy.
And the academic feedback?
Yeah.
Oh, man. There was this one progress report from 7th grade. I have it here. It says his year was a steady state disaster.
Brutal. Just brutal.
Can you imagine telling a 7th grader his life is a steady state disaster? That kind of label sticks. It becomes your identity.
It does. But here's the turning point. And this is why we're talking about him. Davis Graham didn't stay a disaster.
Right.
He ended up getting a Master of Science from Brandeis University.
From a steady-state disaster to a master's degree.
Yeah.
How did his brain change? Did he finally fix the wiring?
No, his brain didn't change. The delivery system changed.
Oh.
He stopped trying to force his brain to use that stapler to pound the nail. He embraced technology.
This is the part that gets me excited. Because Graham argues that the problem isn't the brain. It's the printed word. So what tools did he use to bypass the print?
He built what we'd now call a tech stack. First and foremost, text-to-speech, or TTS.
Like speak screen on his iPhone or Kindle.
Exactly. Listening instead of looking.
So not just audiobooks.
No, it's using the phone to read everything. Emails, articles, textbooks. It bypasses that visual decoding bottleneck entirely. If the brain doesn't have to waste energy decoding the letters, it can focus 100% on understanding the content.
But he didn't just stop at consuming info. He used tech to produce it too. And this is where I think a lot of us hit a wall. He used speech to text.
Dictation. He stopped typing and started talking.
Okay, hold on. If dictation is so great, and I know the technology is way better now, why aren't we all doing it? I'm looking at my laptop right now and I'm still compelled to type. Why is the keyboard so sticky?
It's the QWERTY effect, both literally and metaphorically. We view typing as writing. Speaking feels like, well, talking. It feels impermanent.
It feels messy. When I type, I can edit as I go. Backspace, delete, rephrase. When I talk, I feel like I'm rambling. It feels unstructured.
That's the barrier. But Graham argues that's exactly why dictation is better. It forces you to get the ideas out first.
Oh.
It separates the creation phase from the editing phase. When you type, you're trying to be the writer and the editor at the same time, which just slows down your cognitive flow.
So you just get the words out and then clean up the mess later.
Exactly. And he has a brilliant hack for the cleanup. He dictates his thoughts, which can be a bit messy, and then he uses AI. He literally puts in the query, proofread for punctuation and grammar.
That is so smart.
Yeah.
It's like having a 24/7 editor who doesn't judge you.
And it validates a massive study from Stanford. They compared speech recognition to typing on a smartphone.
I saw those stats. The difference was huge.
It was. Speech recognition was 3 times faster than typing for English.
3 times?
3 times. And the error rate was over 20% lower.
That is staggering. So wait, if speaking is 3 times faster and more accurate, and we have AI to clean it up,
Yeah.
we are literally clinging to keyboards out of what?
Nostalgia.
Tradition, habit, and this misconception that literacy means physically manipulating text with our eyes and fingers. But the Stanford researchers say we are clinging to keyboards out of sheer tradition, not efficiency.
For someone like Graham, ditching the keyboard wasn't a shortcut, it was a liberation.
Absolutely.
It really challenges the definition of being literate, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
if you can understand complex philosophy by listening to it and write a brilliant paper by dictating it, does it matter if you can't spell philosophy with a pen?
Graham would argue absolutely not. He says we need to measure students by the knowledge they gain, not how well they navigate the printed word.
But there's another level to this technology, right? It's not just about listening at normal speed.
No.
There's this fascinating article from Scientific American about breaking the speed barrier using something called dual channels. Oh, this is mind-blowing. This comes from Matthew Schneps in the Laboratory for Visual Learning.
Okay.
They found that the most effective method wasn't just audio, but audio plus visual.
Meaning looking at the words while hearing them.
Yes, but with a twist. The method involves reading visually, often using a smartphone that flashes words quickly so your eyes don't have to track across the page,
Okay.
while simultaneously listening to the audio. But not normal audio, compressed high-speed audio.
Like listening to a podcast at 2x speed.
Or 3x, or even faster.
Whoa. Wouldn't that just be chaos? If I'm struggling to read, wouldn't speeding it up make it worse?
To understand why this works, you have to understand how a dyslexic eye reads. It's not a smooth sweep across the page. It's full of what we call regressions.
The eyes are jumping back.
Constantly. They scan forward, get stuck on a word, jump back to check the context, then jump forward again. It's a stutter step.
Which breaks the flow of comprehension. You lose the thread of the story because you're physically lost on the page.
Exactly. Now, bring in the high-speed audio. The audio is linear. It moves forward relentlessly. It effectively prohibits the brain from telling the eyes to look back.
It acts as a pacer car.
Yes, a pacer car that's perfect. It forces the eyes to keep up with the ears. It overrides the impulse to regress. And once you stop stopping, comprehension actually skyrockets. It creates this flow state where the auditory system carries the visual system.
That is the aha moment for me.
Huh?
We call dyslexia a learning disability, but it sounds more like an input-output problem.
Right.
If you fix the input port switch from eyes to ears or use this dual channel method, the processor inside is working just fine.
In fact, the processor might be working better than fine. And this brings us to the most provocative part of our deep dive.
The superpower.
The idea that dyslexia is a superpower.
I love this concept, but I also want to be careful not to romanticize it too much. It is a struggle.
Of course.
But the source by Jeneth Dyke, Dyslexic Superpower, makes a really compelling case for the flip side.
She does. And she draws on the work of Ronald Davis, who wrote The Gift of Dyslexia. The core idea is the difference between verbal thinkers and nonverbal thinkers.
Okay, break that down.
Most typical brains are verbal. We think in words. Our internal monologue moves at the speed of speech, about 2.5 words per second.
That sounds about right. I'm hearing my own voice in my head as we speak.
Right. But dyslexic thinkers are often nonverbal. They think in pictures, 3D moving images.
Okay.
And the speed difference is staggering. The research suggests image processing is anywhere from 400 to 2,000 times faster than verbal processing.
That sounds like a made-up number. 2,000 times faster. How is that even measurable?
Think of it this way. If I walk into a room, I instantly understand the layout, the exit, the chairs, the mood, the lighting, the spacing. That takes, what, a millisecond?
A snap of a finger. Even less.
Now, try to write a paragraph describing that room to someone who hasn't seen it. The door is on the north wall, adjacent to a beige chair. The light is dim.
That would take me 2 minutes to write and another minute for them to read. And they still might not get it right.
That is the friction. The dyslexic brain has already read the room. The non-dyslexic brain is still trying to type out the first sentence. The disability only appears when we force that high-speed visual processor to slow down and use a low-speed verbal output.
So the struggle of the disability is really just the translation error between a high-speed movie and a slow script.
Exactly. And it goes deeper than just speed. It's about 3D manipulation. Davis gives this great example of a dyslexic child trying to read the word cat. A verbal thinker sees CAT fixed. A nonverbal thinker, who can rotate 3D objects in their mind effortlessly, might see 40 variations of that word instantly.
Because in the real world, if I see a real cat, I walk behind it, it's still a cat. It doesn't change its identity just because I'm looking at it from a different angle.
Precisely. In nature, object permanence is a survival skill. A lion is a lion from every angle. But in reading, a D becomes a B or a P or a Q just by rotating it. To a dyslexic brain, those are all the same object viewed from different sides. The brain is actually being too sophisticated for the 2D limitation of the alphabet.
That is a complete reframing.
Eh.
It's not that they can't tell the difference. It's that their brain is designed to see the unity of the object.
Yes.
So how does this translate to the superpower in the real world, beyond just being confused by letters?
Well, think about careers that require visualizing complex systems or 3D spaces. Architecture, engineering, graphic design.
Right.
Kenneth Dyke mentions that Einstein famously came up with the theory of relativity in a daydream, a visualization. He saw it before he did the math.
And Wayne Gretzky, I remember reading that he visualized the game from above.
Yes, he wasn't just reacting to where the puck was. He had a 3D map of the entire ice in his head. He knew where the puck would be because he could see the whole system moving at once.
And there was that bit about disorientation actually being an advantage.
Right. Dyke calls it disorienting intuition. Because dyslexics are so good at shifting perspective, distorting reality in their minds, they're often hyper-aware of their surroundings. She mentions noticing party decorations before noticing the people.
An ability to take in the whole scene at once.
Rather than focusing on linear details, yes.
So let's tally this up. You have a brain that processes information up to 2,000 times faster, sees in 3D, understands complex systems intuitively, and has hyper-awareness. And we punish these kids because they struggle with a spelling test.
That is the tragedy Graham points out. We have an education system that is obsessed with a specific, outdated method of data transfer reading and writing. And if you can't do that one thing well, we ignore all the other massive advantages you have.
It reminds me of that quote, "If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid."
Exactly. And Graham's point, and the point of the research, is stop forcing the fish to climb the tree. Give the fish water.
Give the dyslexic student text-to-speech. Give them dictation tools.
Let them swim.
It's amazing to think about how much potential has been lost, how many steady-state disasters were actually geniuses waiting for the right tool.
And that brings us back to that woodpecker quote from the beginning. It's the woodpeckers on the inside of the ark that will sink the ship.
Right. In the context of the book, Graham is using it to say, we, the dyslexics, the divergent thinkers, we are on the inside of this human ark. And if the system doesn't accommodate us, if it tries to suppress us, it causes damage. It sinks the potential of the whole group.
But there's a flip side to that interpretation. Woodpeckers make holes. Holes can be leaks. Or they can be windows.
Oh, I like that.
Maybe the woodpeckers aren't sinking the ship. Maybe they're carving out the windows for a new way to see the world. A way that isn't linear, isn't bound by 2D text, but is faster, more visual, and more holistic.
The technology we have now, AI, audio, voice recognition, it's finally catching up to the dyslexic brain.
It really is.
That is such a hopeful place to land. It's not about fixing people. It's about updating the system.
Absolutely. And honestly, the tools we've discussed today, they aren't just for dyslexics. We could all benefit from stepping away from the stapler once in a while.
So here's my challenge to you, the listener. Even if you aren't dyslexic, try it. Seriously. Next time you're burnt out on emails or you have a long article to get through, turn on the listen feature. Put it on 2x speed.
Or use the dictation button. See if you can break your own speed barrier. You might find that the stapler you've been using all these years isn't the only tool in the box.
Huge thanks to Davis Graham for the memoir and the researchers at BU and Stanford for the data. This wasn't just a look at dyslexia. I feel like we just questioned the definition of literacy itself.
I think we did. Keep questioning.
We'll see you next time.